Alright, how we doing, everybody? Welcome back to another lore reading for you guys. I know I'm a little late with this one, but new setup, so I'm hoping the audio will be a little bit better, but we'll find out. Um, I will leave a link for the other one for you guys. So that was the Dance of Destruction. So this was when Shiva first came. So this is now that Shiva has come. We'll see how he has affected the battle realm with Tiamat. So, well, the destroyer had danced. So, well, we know that Shiva is the dancer of destruction and also a dancer of creation, so it only makes sense that he does destruction and creation. Alright, anyway, so Dance of Creation. This is your Smite lore reading for the day, so let's get this party started, shall we? It's very interesting background music. So, the destroyer had danced, and existence unraveled, one atom at a time. Time stilled. The stars flickered and were snuffed. Far worlds crumbled into cosmic debris, to be swept away by the black seas of eternity as they converged on the universe's center, incomprehensible, inescapable. At the heart of existence, the world sang out its death cry. On Atlas Mountain, Gilgamesh watched, frozen, as a strange goddess shimmered into view. Her skeletal features taut as she gave voice to the wail of the world's ending. The light of the newcomer's arrival seemed to set her ablaze, as if she were burned with the world. She held up her hands in protest? In welcome? He could not say, but the dancer did not cease his graceful movements. The song he heard he danced to was incomprehensible, incomprehensible roar to Gilgamesh's ears. Excuse me. Like the crash of the surf against rock, but doubled and redoubled beyond all endurance. A thunder that echoed out of time's heart, shattering the fragile glass that world caught in its path. He could feel the thunder pulsing through the rock beneath his feet, reducing the mountain to dust and memory. It was slow motion collapse, so slow that his balance suffered not at all. One moment he stood on rock, and the next sand, then nothing at all. But he was not falling. None of them were. It was as if being so close to the epicenter had spared them from being consumed, at least immediately anyway. He looked down at his hands and saw that they were becoming apart like dust in the wind. Their substance was being torn apart as slowly as surely that of the world around them. Beneath the all-consuming roar, he could hear the voices of his gods crying out, and not just them. It's as if it was the voices of every inhabitant of the world, mortal and divine alike, sang out in unison. Their voices joined that of the skeletal goddess, and her song became theirs, and was subsumed by the roaring cacophony of destruction. The destroyer danced, picking up speed. Gilgamesh felt Tiamat force herself past him. She sprang into the arc of the dance, into the heart of the light. Was she trying to stop it, or join it? He did not know, but something told him either way that she could not accomplish it alone. He stretched out his hand and caught a glimmering flash of scales. Nor was he the only one. Persephone, Merlin, and the others were there as well, all moving with him as if they had all had the same thought in that same moment. Maybe they had. He could feel them, even as he felt Tiamat. A great mingling, even in their very beings, unraveled into the motes of light and shadow. Through them, he could feel Tiamat attempting to grapple with the forces of the newcomer Shiva. Someone whispered. Merlin, perhaps, or maybe Atlas, had unleashed. But it was too much, too fast. Like sand, it slipped through her claws, and he heard her roar of frustration echo across infinity. If Shiva heard, he gave no sign. A dance of unmaking continued, and Tiamat screamed in fury as it began to consume her. She was drowning in the very sea that she had roused. He felt her frustration, her disbelief, and was echoed only by his own. So stubborn, so foolish. All of them had been so foolish. Perhaps it was better this way, to be unmade and let whoever came after try again. Maybe they would get it right, but even as the thought occurred to him, he cast it aside. Surrender was an anathema to him. He was a king, the first king, and he would not surrender to oblivion without a fight. He felt a similar determination from Arthur, Bellona, and the others. It strengthened his own, and he cried out, trying to get Tiamat's attention, but she ignored them. Or maybe she just simply couldn't hear him over the sound of her own fury. Then, a light burst of something, or maybe it was an idea of something, a memory of lightning and starlight, of hoarfrost and thunder, and as fire as old as time. He felt new presences in the chaos. The gods were not going gentle into the night. He heard the roar of Zeus's lightning, Odin's guttural war cry. He felt the rumble of the earth as Terra and Geb flung to the last of their strength against the devouring ocean, and the crash of Jormungandr's scale as the great serpent coiled about what would remain of the world, holding it together for an instant longer. Amaterasu's blade joined that of Tsukuyomi, darting against the tide. Shock's thunder mingled that of Thor, as Yamoja's waters met the incoming tide in a great cascade. The gods of every pantheon were here, in some form or another, lending their strength to the cause. He saw a shadow that might have been Neith's stride through the chaos, hand outstretched. Behind her came a flickering outline of starlight. Oleron. They called out as one pantheon, one voice. Tiamat. Tiamat flinched, turned. Gilgamesh felt Persephone's hand on his shoulder and heard her whisper, "Now, strike now." But he knew that she did not mean to strike with his sword or fist, but rather his words. "Tiamat, you do not face the end alone. Not this time," he cried out. "We are here, and we will face the end with you. If this thing can be done, it must be by all of us together." For what felt like an eternity, Tiamat stared at them. He felt her mistrust, her fear. She had trusted the gods once before and had been betrayed. But it was different now. It had to be, for all their sakes. "Together then," she growled at last. She threw back her head and roared, and Gilgamesh joined his voice to hers. The gods cried out as one, and the sound met the abyssal roar of the cosmic sea, and for an instant drowned it out. A cry, not of fear or of hate, but out of defiance, of promise and intent, a song of creation, as had been sung by Tiamat herself in the dim, first days before man or god existed. At the sound of it, Shiva slowed his dance, and finally it stopped. Tiamat turned, and Gilgamesh joined her. Shiva stood, staring up at the abyssal emptiness above. He glanced at them, smiled, and without a word, started a new dance. Gilgamesh felt lightheaded. The voices of the gods fell silent one by one, as if something were snatching them away. Soon, only he and Tiamat remained. But the dance continued. It was more graceful than the first, and beautiful rather than terrifying. He felt strangely calm as he watched Shiva move. What? He began. It's the dance of creation, a familiar voice said. Gilgamesh turned. Oleron stood behind him, and with him, Neith and Atlas as well. Tiamat glanced at them, seemingly unsurprised by their presence. But there was others as well, but Gilgamesh could only dimly perceive them. Even so, he knew them for the oldest gods, the ones who had seen more than one revolution of the wheel. The dance of destruction was always followed by that of creation. A new world rises from the ashes of old, and so it was explained to me by a curious fellow with the head of an elephant. Oleron flexed his hands. I can now feel new stars burning in the heavens. I feel stronger than I ever have in ages. New stars, new worlds, Tiamat wrote. The sea recedes, and berry seeds sprout anew, even as it was the first time. Will it be the same as it was? Gilgamesh asked. Will the others be as they were? That depends, Oleron said. I left the stars in order to fix what I thought had been broken. But the longer I stayed, the more I came to realize that I could not. He looked up at him. None of us could. Not alone. The fate of this world does not rest in the hand of a single god or goddess, Neith said. Her eyes were on Shiva, but her words were meant for all the gathered gods. It has always been a shared duty, and one we have forsaken for far too long. But now, we have a chance to set the wheel once more onto its proper course. She looked at Tiamat. If we can put aside the past and act as one. Tiamat looked away. I am tired of war, but there are gods, there will always be conflict. You are petty things, and you indulge your whims too easily. Why should I build a new world just to watch you destroy it all over again? Gilgamesh cleared his throat. Because, O glistening one, this time you will be there to ensure that they do not, and so will I. Gods like Artha and Mulan, even those like Merlin, who strive to ensure that the balance is maintained and no great threat is left unmet. And mark me, there will be threats. A new world will bring new dangers, new enemies, new gods. He paused and smiled. New stories even. But together, we can ensure that the mistakes of the past are not repeated in this turn of the cycle. Atlas laughed and spoke up for the first time. Yes, why not make some new mistakes for a change? Tiamat gave a grumbling chuckle and looked down at Gilgamesh. A new world? One where all gods have their place, including myself. It will be crowded. Chaotic, Neith said, smiling. The strands of fate will grow tangled as new destinies emerge. Her gaze flicked to Gilgamesh. What was once predetermined will no longer be certain, but once was impossible might yet be. Gilgamesh nodded. It will be interesting, if nothing else. He looked over at the others. What are we waiting for then? Let's get on with it. It is already done, Shiva said. As he came to a halt before Gilgamesh, the air gave a sudden ripple, and before Gilgamesh's astonished eyes, Tiamat and the others wavered like mirages and vanished. All save towering Atlas. Where did they? To their proper places, Shiva said. As you must go. Gilgamesh hesitated. Did we make the right choice? Shiva smiled. Go home, King Gilgamesh. A new future awaits. Shiva gestured, and Gilgamesh wavered and vanished as the others had. He paused for a moment and then turned. Behind him, The plateau was much as it had been before. Atlas had set aside his burden. The Titan crouched before him, weighed down once more by the heavens. Shiva looked up at him, frowning. It does not have to be this way, you know. You know that it does, Atlas said, looking down at him. He smiled grimly. I am used to it. He shifted his weight, adjusting his burden slightly. Even so, it might be that I am able to set it aside every so often in the future. Who can say? After all, a new world brings with it new possibilities. Yes, that is largely the point. Shiva waved his hand, and a tsunami of flower petals rose about them, cascading upwards and outwards. As they billowed, they revealed images of other places. In one, Zeus sat upon the throne of restored Olympus, Hera by his side. In another, Odin threw open the doors of Valhalla as Ratatoskr whispered something in his ear. He saw Set clash with Horus somewhere along the Nile, and Bellona pursue a cackling Discordia through the corridors of an ancient temple. Hades and Persephone sat side by side in the underworld, and Baron Samedi strode whistling through the ancient burying ground. The flowers swirled faster, revealing more of this new but familiar world. Shiva saw a chicken-legged hut stalk through a dark forest, while inside two witches, Baba Yaga and Morgan Le Fay, discussed some point of magic. He saw Arthur and Merlin standing in an audience chamber before an immense circular table. They seemed as if they were waiting for someone. Far to the east, Mulan sparred with Sun Wukong amid a cherry grove, while Guan Yu watched in approval. Farther still, Tiamat reclined in her temple as Gilgamesh respectfully requested an audience with her. The flowers rippled and parted, revealing a clash between Tsukiyomi and Susanoo. Moonlight flared as the two gods met in the center of a surging river. The flowers spun again and again. Shiva saw Oleron call down the light of the stars to illuminate his path through a deep cavern. As above, a crouching upside-down shape of Camazotz watched as he saw the ocean's froth and Charybdis rise to confront Kuzenbo, the king of all Kappa. Shiva gestured as the flower petals still. Well, Atlas asked, what do you think? As it seems as if they're all as it was to me. Shiva pondered the question. The gods would clash, as they always had. It was in their nature. But perhaps the little fires of conflicts would not grow into an impossible conflagration that they have seen so many times before. There were some who would work to ensure it, including himself. But even so, there was no way to predict what the future held. I think we shall have to wait and see. Shiva looked up to the Titan and smiled. Whatever comes next will be interesting, if nothing else. Whatever comes next will be interesting indeed. You guys will have to tell me what you guys think. But I like these ones. These ones have always been good. So, with that being said, guys, we are going to end it here for now. But we hope you guys have a fantastic day, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. This has been your Smite Muller reading. This has been the Phantom Creation. Have a good one, everybody.